I think one of the things that the singularitarians are guilty of is what I call thinkism. Thinkism is this idea that you can solve problems or get things done just by thinking. And it comes from a lot of guys who like to think, right? And so this is the idea that if you had a really sufficient smart thing, it could solve cancer or something. You can't solve cancer with the little that we know about biology. You could have an AI that could read every single medical paper that ever existed, and it's not going to solve cancer because we just simply don't have enough. We have a whole bunch of more experiments that we have to do, which take time. And so this is the idea that, well, if we have an AI can do all these things just by thinking about it, I think is a mistake. That's thinkism. And
Okay.
so there's just like the way you hack something is not to break the encryption, is all the other things that have to interface with it. It's the same with an AI. Just the fact that it's really, really smart does not mean it's the end of the world, that it takes over, that it had lost our control. There's so many other ways that we interface and so many other consequences of this in the real world that we can use to manage it. I don't think it's unmanageable at all.
Hmm. Okay. And you don't, I gather, buy the scenario in, well, kind of in the movie The Matrix, but one that's also been expressed by some prominent people lately, which is that we should worry about, brilliant AI turning us, becoming our overlords and enslaving us, maybe even putting us into gooey cocoons and pumping dreams into our brains, as in the movie The Matrix. But in
Right.
any event, the idea, and I have to admit, I always have trouble imagining this point at which, like, the AI starts doing something other than what we've programmed it to do, because surely we wouldn't program it to enslave
Right.
us.
Right. Right. Right.
Well, unless you found the Matrix scenario attractive enough. But anyway, in some of these scenarios, the idea is, we don't want this to happen, but it happens. I have trouble imagining that, since we do program the AI. On the other hand, you yourself have said we cannot anticipate. There is some point beyond which it gets harder to anticipate what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the way I would say about it is it's really hard to imagine it happening by accident, because I think even if we had it as our assignment, we would find it really difficult to do. Right. And so, but there is certainly there are going to be unanticipated, unperceived aspects of this that will be very hard for us to control. And by the way, a lot of the initial AI, and this is happening already, makes decisions where we just don't know how it came to that decisions. And there's no mistake that the AIs are going to be making decisions. They're already making decisions, and they will make more decisions. And the part of the challenge that we have is, as we want to kind of reverse engineer or understand why it made a certain decision, so we can hold it accountable. And I suspect that in the long run, that we will have kind of like consciousness AIs. We'll have AIs that will watch AIs to try and tell us, what is that AI doing? And we're only going to have another level of monitoring AI that's going to try to unravel the reasoning or the criteria or whatever it is of this AI, and that's kind of a form of a consciousness. And we might be able to have more accountability by using AIs to understand the other AIs.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably what we're going to do. Whether and it won't be something that necessarily we have full control over, just like we don't have full control over our children. And I think that's why this idea of kind of embedding into them ethics, morality, helping them make us better, I think is sort of what we're going to spend a lot of our time doing. I think that's going to become a necessary thing of what we're doing, of embedding our values. But the challenge is not embedding the values. I think that's very easy to do. The challenge is that we don't know what our values are well enough to embed. Ethically, we're really flimsy, shallow, inconsistent. And so in order to teach the AIs, the self-driving cars, ethics, requires us to be very clear about them so we can program, but we aren't clear about them. And that's the real challenge for us. It's not really transmitting them, but actually articulating them to ourselves.
Okay, but you think in principle, if we're clear on our ethics, then in a certain sense, are you saying that controlling the AI is in principle not such a great challenge? I mean, keeping it from doing something horrific to us is not such a great challenge because you could embed foundational ethical principles, which presumably would include like, hey, don't mess with us. And they would stick. They would hold. You think that's...
Yeah, right, because one of the things that you do is don't mess with the ethics either, too. I mean,
right.
And so we have an existence proof this is possible, and it's called children. All right?
I don't know. Maybe you've had better luck controlling your children than I've had, but proceed, elaborate.
Right. Well, I mean, it's this. We have the same fears and the same challenges of having generations of children, which we're unleashing these free-willed agents that can do great harm, and not only that, but they're going to train their children. So it's like that's a scary prospect where there are these beings that can take us any way that's possible. So